Look at all these beautiful people. Yeah, and of course the only person missing in our physical room is our sweet Phill. And but I've been feeling his presence all day, right with me. And Baba said, you know, you become so close with someone, you live in the same heart, and that's how it feels. So I'd like to start with this quote from Baba. And I'm going to thank Lynn Berry for sending me this quote. Taking a chance on the self, with a big S, is not for the weak of heart. It is for those ready to forget what they know and let go of who they have become. Meher Baba. And for me, Phill was my hero in that category. He really strove to become who he really is, in love with Baba. So I think it's very important that we say a joke first. Very important. So I have all kinds of jokes, and we have a joke jar up here, but does anyone have a joke that they really are just dying to tell?
I do. Literally, I've told you this, the last thing that Phill ever said to me was, "Jamie, take my advice. I'm not using it."
Yeah. That's my man. That's my man. Anybody else?
I want to just tell the people what burns.
Okay, fine. Don't worry.
That told a lot.
So I have one that Phill liked. And an Irishman and an Englishman walk into a bakery. The Englishman steals 3 cookies and puts them in his pocket. He says to the Irishman, "That took great skill and guile to steal these cookies. The owner didn't even see me." The Irishman replied, "That's just simple thievery. I'll show you how to do it the honest way and get the same results." The Irishman then proceeded to call out to the owner of the bakery and say, "Sir, come, I want to show you a magic trick." The owner was intrigued, so he came over to watch. The Irishman asked for a cookie, and he ate it. He did that 2 more times. The baker owner was getting a little frustrated. He goes, "So where's the magic?" The Irishman replied, "Look in the Englishman's pocket."
That's great.
Isn't that a great joke? Oh, gosh. Okay, we're having fun. And I'm so glad, because it's taken me a year to build up the courage to do this. I have wondered many times how people lose their beloveds and then have to rush in to having a funeral and whatever, all these things they do. And if I had done that, I would just have had to shut myself down in order to steal my way through it. And thanks to my grief support group, they said, "Well, then just don't do it. Wait until you're ready." And so I'm finally ready, and that it feels good. However, you know, how do you celebrate and honor a companion of 36 years who was a pretty extraordinary person in his own right, I couldn't figure out how to begin. And then a very, very dear friend of Phil's, who I told we were doing this, he lives in Texas, so he couldn't come, he sent me a video. And I thought, I'm starting with that. So Saroja is going to put a video up here for us. And it's self-explanatory. It's okay the way it is? Okay.
Hello everyone. My name is Benny Vaughn. I live in Fort Worth, Texas, USA. Phill Smith is my best friend. Phill Smith is my best friend. We often joked with each other, and this was actually facilitated by Phill. He would often say to me that we are brothers from different mothers. And that was so true. I met my best friend back in the late 90s. And he attended a sports massage workshop that I was teaching at Southwind Farm in North Carolina. So I want to share with you what it was like when I met Phill. So Phill was in my class, and on the setup day, he was offering to help myself and my colleague, Whitney Lowe, set up the room and do this and do that. And I recall the first time I laid eyes on Phill, my paradigms and my stereotypes kicked in. Here's this bald-headed white guy with a white beard with this Georgia twangy accent. And my first thought, as an African-American man, as a black man who grew up in the Deep South, in Georgia, oh my goodness, I've got a big old redneck in my class. And initially, my attitude was avoid him at all costs. Phill kept hanging around me. He kept offering to help me with anything that I required. And he just got in the way. and he got in the way, as I reflect back on it, he got in the way intentionally. And in the end, Phill became my best friend. Phill Smith is my best friend. Phill offered to travel with me and assist me in teaching. I can remember specifically being in California at the Heartwood Institute in the late 90s. And Phill came out to the Heartwood Institute. And for those of you who don't know what the Heart Institute is, the way I describe the Heartwood Institute, it's a cross between a 70s hippie commune and YMCA summer camp. That's the best way I can describe it. I love going out to the Heartwood Institute and teaching every summer. One summer, Phill said, I'll be your teaching assistant. I'll do whatever you require to learn from you. And so he did. Phill traveled with me. Phill would cut my hair. Phill would help with the students when I'd be teaching. And he was just a wonderful, wonderful human being. But more than that, Phill shared with me often much wisdom. I can remember one time specifically, I'd had, up until now, a bad encounter with a white police officer in downtown Fort Worth, Texas. And I was so upset over the encounter. And really, it was a racist, no reason encounter because he could. So he detained me for whatever in his mind he perceived I had done. And by the way, I was at an art show. I was at an art show in downtown Fort Worth. And I remember being so upset, because for the first time in my life, and I've been stopped many times by white police officers in Columbus, Georgia, growing up in the Deep South, stopped in Mississippi, stopped in many places in my life. But this was the first time that I had so much anger up until now that I wanted to do harm to that white police officer. I'd never felt that before. I'd never felt that rage of violence. Who did I call? I called my best friend, Phill. And I talked to Phill about it. I told him what had happened and that I wasn't sure what to do with this rage that I was feeling. Because I told Phill for the first time ever in my life, up until now, I felt like I could do deadly harm to another human being. And Phill described that situation to me so beautifully. He took what had happened and he spoke it back to me in a way that I will never, ever forget. And he suggested to me, find the seed of good in this. There is a seed of good. There is a lesson here. There is a golden nugget here. Find that seed of good in that event, Benny, in that encounter. And that's what I did. That's my best friend, Phill Smith. I often laugh when I think of the two of us together and what others must have thought when they see us walk into a room together. On the surface, we were the most unlikely two to be best friends, on the surface. But underneath all of that, at the heart-centered level, we were indeed brothers from another mother. And that I will always, always remember and hold dear to my heart for my best friend, Phill Smith. His human experience has been completed, but his energy and his spirit still exists. Albert Einstein, the great physicist, once said, you cannot create energy and you cannot destroy energy. Phill Smith has completed this human experience. But for me, forever, Phill Smith remains a luminous light being that had a wonderful human experience. And I am so grateful that I had the privilege to experience that with him and from him. Thank you, brother. I love you, and you will always remain my best friend. Thank you. Asante Sana.
So this is where they met, and then, obviously that's Benny and Phil's right there. So, lovely.
Where in California is that?
I think it's in Northern California. I've never been there. I've never been there. I might coach over there. So, I don't know how many of you know what the 5 wishes are, but it's a document that everyone can fill out about their dying days. Special requests that you have. And Phill filled this out, and it's one of the questions is, if anyone asks how I want to be remembered, please say the following about me: happy, kind, loving. Then, if there's to be a memorial service for me, I wish for this service to include the following, and then list whatever you want. The only thing Phill wrote, to have people tell jokes. That's all he said. So, with that in mind, let's have another joke. Who's got a joke? Yeah, you can come up to the mic if you'd like. You don't trust your loud voices. They say you're supposed to get as close as licking an ice cream.
So old Johnny was celebrating his birthday. Ripe old age, 89 years old. Johnny was sitting, thinking about the wonderful life he had, when ding dong, the bell rang. His doorbell rang. He was surprised. He hobbles up to the door, opens the door, and there is the most beautiful young woman he's ever laid his eyes on. She looks at him. She says, "Johnny, I'm here to give you super sex." Johnny looks at her and says, "I'll take the soup."
Exactly the spirit I'm looking for. Okay. We could have another. Anybody?
Over here.
Oh, yes. Come up.
This one is from Katie Irani, and it's called Holy Prostitutes. A man is driving down a deserted stretch of highway when he notices a sign out of the corner of his eye. It reads, "Sisters of St. Francis, House of Prostitution, 10 miles." He thinks this is a figment of his imagination and drives on without a second thought. Soon he sees another sign which reads, "Sisters of St. Francis, House of Prostitution, 5 miles. Suddenly he begins to realize that these signs are for real, and he drives past a third sign saying, "Sisters of St. Francis, House of Prostitution, next right." His curiosity gets the best of him, and he pulls into the drive. On the far side of the parking lot is a stone building with a small sign next to the door reading, "Sisters of St. Francis." He climbs the steps and rings the bell. The door is answered by a nun in a long black habit who asks, "What may we do for you, my son?" He answers, "I saw your signs along the highway and was interested in possibly doing business." "Very well, my son. please follow me. He is led, excuse me, he is led through many winding passages and soon is quite disoriented. The nun stops at a closed door and tells the man, please knock on this door. He does so, and another nun in a long habit, holding a tin cup, answers the door. This nun instructs, please put $100 in the cup, then go through the large wooden door at the end of the hallway. He puts 100 in the cup, eagerly trots down the hall, and slips through the door, pulling it shut behind him. The door locks, and he finds himself in the parking lot, facing another sign, which says, go in peace. You have just been screwed by the Sisters of St. Francis. Serves you right, you sinner. Again, that's from Dear Katie.
Oh, God, that's a good one. I'm sure Phil knows it. He knew every joke you ever told. Okay, so Bobby is going to give us a song, and she volunteered to sing this with Phill in mind. And is it the first time you've performed it? No, okay, I wasn't sure. Okay, so then while that music is going on, we're going to have a slideshow that I just called Friends.
Smile for nothing, the master told Bala to. Smile for nothing, it could really help you. And just for nothing, he said, remember me too. Then little can affect you, no more being blue. Smile for nothing, remember me for nothing. Smile for nothing throughout your day. Remember me for nothing, to enliven work and play. Smile at life so those worries go away. No more gloom, your world feels bright and gay. Smile for nothing, remember me for nothing. Smile for nothing creates a yes over a no. Remember me for nothing means trying to let it go. Smile at passers-by, see no one as a foe. Happiness wins over every false woe. Smile for nothing, remember me for nothing. For in reality, there's only love under the hood. Smile for nothing, remember me for nothing. nothing. J-Bob.
So one of the things I noticed when I watched Benny's video was how doggedly Phill pursued being his apprentice, basically, that's what he wanted. And that was so like Phill. When he had something on his heart, in his heart, that really compelled him, he was in 100%. And when Bobby offered this song, it's actually after one of Ball Nut 2's conversations with the Awakener. And she did not know, I don't think, that Ball Nut 2 was a really important confidant of Phil's, especially during the 6 years that he pursued me to marry him. Yeah, I mean, like Benny, when I first met Phill and he was in my face, my stereotypes kicked right in. And I was kind of like, I can't quite see myself with a fat, balding man who tells jokes all the time. It didn't fit my image. And at the same time, I was so comfortable in his presence. And I really was attracted by the fact that he was absolutely outrageous. And Bobby is going to sing another song, which is called Never Give Up. And 6 years he pursued me. That's a long time. I lived in India. I mean, it was hopeless. People told Phill, just give it up. And he, like I said, doggedly pursued and was in 100%. So I love this song, Never Give Up, and it reminds me of Phill.
Joined by Phyllis Fillmore. Less and more, loss and gain, even pleasure and pain. There, Bobby says it's all the same. He calls it an illusion game. To most these opposites seem so true. Sometimes we're happy, too often we're blue. Plus suffering is made worse by the mind, which can be critical and very unkind. So join us now. But never give up, 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 never give up. Good and bad, angry and glad, black and white, wrong and right, virtue and sin, lose and win, calm and strife, even death and life. There, Bobby says it's all the same. He calls it an illusion game. Everything in the world seemed wrong. That's why I had to write this song. God must have heard my SOS when a voice came through this mental mess. It said, never give up, 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 never give up. Baba says it's all the same. He calls it an illusion game. Mansions and jails, even females and males, old and new, even Muslim and Jew. Meher Baba says it's all the same. He calls it an illusion game. So never give up, 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 boom, boom, never give up, boom, boom, never give up, boom, boom, never give up, ba 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 ba. Hey, Phill.
So, I want to give you an instance of just how outrageous Phill Smith could be. So, I'm still married to my first husband, Gordon Neal. People might remember him. Phill did some carpentry work for us, and by the time he finished, it was dinner time, everything was ready. So I said, well, why don't you just stay and have dinner with us? And we knew him from Baba meetings in Atlanta and stuff. And so we had a fun eating. We had fun eating, and we had a good evening. And we told a lot of jokes, okay? So it was time to end the night. So Gordon and I walk Phill to the front door. Well, he takes his hand, he puts it on Gordon's shoulder, and he says, Gordon, if you ever get tired of this woman, let me know. Because I'll take her off your hands in a second. Gordon laughed, kind of like, and I'm thinking, who says stuff like that? I mean, you might think it, but who says stuff like that? And never did I imagine at that time that he would become the love of my life. So now we're going to have a slideshow of Phill and I, and Mark and Lisa are going to play a wonderful song to accompany that. That's our wedding picture.
Beautiful. All right, it's for you, Phill. I don't know why I love you, but I do. I don't know why I cry so, but I do. I only know I'm lonely, that I want you only. I don't know why I love you, but I do. Can't sleep nights because I feel so restless. I don't know what to do, I feel so helpless. Been most every day, guess I'm wasting away. I don't know why I love you, but I do. My days have been so lonely, and my nights have been so blue. I don't know how I stand it, but I do. Each night I sit alone and tell myself that I will fall in love with someone else. I guess I'm wasting time. I gotta clear my mind. I don't know why I love you, but I do. been so lonely and my nights have been so blue. I don't know how I stand it, but I do. Each night I sit alone and tell myself that I will fall in love with someone else. I guess I'm wasting time. I gotta clear my mind. I don't know why I love you, but I do. I don't know why I love you, but I do. Keep going down to my one.
So in case you can't read the whole thing, it says, some days all you can do is smile and wait for some kind soul to pull your ass out of the binds you've gotten yourself into. And that's definitely what Phil and I did for each other, you know? And I mean on like a karmic, big level. And that's wonderful. So Phil never gave up. And Baba, I was only afraid, basically. I was married once, I didn't think I was very good at it, and I kept saying, you really don't want to be married to me. And, but Baba finally turned the key in my heart, and it was like, own up to it. You love this guy. You know. And probably some people don't know that Phil was definitely an aspiring poet. He was frustrated because he really didn't think it was great, but maybe liked his poetry. So he wrote me this poem. Baba has sent you in my time of need. With timeless wisdom, my soul you doth feed. Your love for me is quiet and untold. Then you caress me and I begin to unfold. Our love runs deep and true. Oh, sweet Deborah, I want to grow old with you. So sweet. Yeah, he was a deep redneck, I'll tell you. Okay, so Phil had some favorite joke categories, and husband and wife jokes were really one of his favorites. And before I jump into the ones that I brought, did anybody else have a husband and wife joke? Arsenio, okay, and Lisa too. Okay. Yeah.
Well, first of all, I must confess that I met Phill only twice in my life. First time at a dinner, where I found him fantastic, full of humor. And the second thing, the last night, before he took the airplane out of this world. I went to take something to their house, and he looked at me as he was, and there was so much joy in his eyes. And the last thing that he told me was, Jai Baba Arsenio, and I left. Next day, he was gone. She was a witness. So, but the joke that my mother used to go to India 3 times with me. One day, that's what I remember, because I'm not good at retaining jokes. But she started cracking jokes with Mani Irani. And that was a great session. I forgot most of them, but this one I remember. She was telling Mani, there were 3 old ladies, and my mother was in her 70s at that time, that were having tea. And they were complaining about the loss of memory, losing it. So one said, "Whoa, you don't know what happened to me. Yesterday I was looking for the keys to my car, and I looked everywhere, everywhere. When I put them, usually my bed, my bed, in the table, everywhere. I couldn't find them. So I went to the refrigerator to get something to drink, because I was exhausted. And there they were. Oh, and the other lady laughed, and she said, "Well, you have been looking for my eyeglasses," which is common, but she was not saying that. All over, and I found out that I had it in my head. And the third lady, this is my mother finished, said, "Well, me, I have no problems. Who's there?" Anyhow.
Elisa.
This is a poem and a joke, and I told it to Phil, and he liked this. What do you call that? A poke? And it is a husband and wife joke, so as she asked. Susie Lee Dunn fell in love, and she planned to marry Joe. And Pappy she was so happy about it that she told her Pappy so. Pappy told her, "Susie gal, you'll have to find another, and I'd just as soon your ma don't know, but Joe is your half-brother." So Susie put aside her Joe, and she planned to marry Will. But after telling Pappy this, he said, "Gal, there's trouble still. You can't marry Will, my girl, and please don't tell your mother, but Will and several others I know are your half-brothers." But Mama knew and said, "My child, just do what makes you happy. Marry Will or marry Joe. You ain't no kin to Pappy."
Anybody else have a husband and wife joke?
I looked up jokes all morning.
Okay, well then, do you have a husband and joke? A husband and wife joke? Excellent.
What? I have to read it, I don't know it by heart.
Oh, right, we got hands up. Okay, we're not in a rush here.
A woman was in bed with her husband's best friend when the phone rang. After hanging up, she turned to her lover and said, "That was Jim, but don't worry. He won't be home for a while. He's playing cards with you."
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, Alan, are you coming up? Someone's coming up here. Okay. Is everybody having a good time? Yes. Okay, good.
Are you going to give him a microphone?
Yeah, right, like you need to.
Make sure you got a timer.
How many won? Well, the judge came out, unless Karen did this one already. The judge came out and said, "Order in the court, order in the court." And the first complainant came up and said, "I'll take chicken biryani and tandoori chicken." So this man dies. That was a Ron Murray joke. This man dies and goes to heaven. And he gets to the pearly gates, and St. Peter is there. And it's very quiet. And St. Peter says, "Oh, I just saw you passed away. We're looking in your record, and you're very good. You can get in if you could spell one word." And the man says, "What?" He says, "Love." "Oh, I got that. Love." And just then, the phone rang. And St. Peter got on the phone, and he looked a lot harried, and increasingly more harried, and more harried. And he said to the man, "I have a problem." That was God. "And I got to go right now. Could you do me a favor and man the booth? It's very quiet today. And if someone comes, you just do the same thing I did with you. If they could spell love, you let them in." And he says, "Well, that's pretty easy." And St. Peter flu. So he's standing behind the booth and nothing's happening. It was a slow day. And in the far distance, he sees someone coming. And it's a woman, and she's running really fast. And she has a look on her face, and he goes, "Oh my God, that's Linda, that's his wife." So as she approaches, she's all anxious and nervous and tense, which is what killed him. And he says, "Linda, what are you doing here?" He says, "Well, Charlie, what?" Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, Sam, there's no Sam still on it. "Well, Sam, I was coming from your funeral, and I was so upset that I didn't watch where I was walking, and a bus ran me over. And so here I am. So how do I get in?" And she's very aggressive, and he's getting very nervous because he could end up in eternity with her. So he says, "Well, it's pretty easy. You only have to spell one word." And she said, "Okay, what is it? What is it?" And she's getting more and more anxious. And he says, "Czechoslovakia."
Okay, good. Okay, this is a very quick one. This one came from Baba's brother, Jal. He loved to tell this joke, and it's a husband and wife joke. When my wife and I argue, she gets on her knees to talk to me. Well, what does she say? "Get out from under that bed, you coward!" Jamie?
Believe it or not, I was going to tell that exact same joke.
There you go. I should have asked. Okay. Husband and wife joke? No. Okay, we're going to just stick to this category right this minute. Okay. I personally really like this one. Upon hearing that her elderly grandfather had just passed away, Katie went straight to her grandparents' house to visit her 95-year-old grandmother and comfort her. When she asked how her grandfather had died, her grandmother replied, "Well, he had a heart attack while we were making love on Sunday morning." Horrified, Katie told her grandmother that two people nearly 100 years old having sex would surely be asking for trouble. "Oh no, my dear," replied Granny. "Many years ago, realizing our advanced age, we figured out the best time to do it was when the church bells would start to ring. It was just the right rhythm. Nice and slow and even. Not too strenuous. In on the ding, out on the dong." She paused to wipe away a tear and continued, "He'd still be alive if that ice cream truck hadn't come along."
Try to stick to something clean like Jaws. So me and my wife, we always fight about the same thing. Money and sex, money and sex. I can't help it. She charges too much.
Oh, God. So I have a question for everybody. We have some nice food. It's not messy fork and knife kind of food. It's all kind of hand food. And we can pause and have some food, or we can go on and have food later. Anyone feel serious about food right now or not? Lynn and me. That's okay. That's okay. You choose. Keep the rhythm going. Okay. Ding dong. Okay. How about ice cream? That's right. How about ice cream? So, then So I'm going to move on to another section then, which is what Phill most doggedly pursued in his life was Christ. And I don't think I need to say to this room of people what kind of difficulties that will put in your life, right? So the karma Phill came into this life with was pretty tough. And for 36 years, I got to witness how courageously he pursued freedom from all that bound him. Like I said earlier, today he remains my hero. And before I show you a slideshow that I've put together of what I would say the hardships of his life, I want to give you a brief idea of his ancestry and that type of thing. So Phil's paternal grandparents were cotton farmers in Georgia, and his father was the oldest boy of 14 children. Okay, and you'll see a picture of all of them. And his mother gave birth to 5 children at home before having Phill. He came 9 years later after the last one. He weighed, and he was the only one born in a hospital. He weighed 9 pounds and he was a breech birth. That's a pretty rough start just in itself. And what's really amazing, and you'll see this young boy, Phill, many times, is how joyful he was. He was a joyful boy. He and his mother went to church like 3 and 4 times a week. He told me anytime the door of the church was open, his mother and him went together. And they read the Bible every night before he went to bed. And at a young age, Phill was baptized in the river and later in church walked up the aisle on Sunday morning to give his life to Christ. When his mother asked him if he really understood what he was doing, he assured her that he loved Jesus and wanted to give his life to him. And unfortunately, real tragedy occurred. Phill was not quite 13, and they were returning from church one night, and as his mother got out of the car, a drunk driver hit her. And he had to run in the house and call the ambulance and wait. And he didn't know it at the time, but his mother did die instantly. And he was left to live with his alcoholic father, who'd been known to beat his mother and fight violently with Phil's older brothers. And Phill tried to commit suicide the first year after his mother died. He tried living with his older siblings who were all married and had children of their own. And, but he couldn't find any kind of peace. Nobody at that time knew how to comfort and help a 13-year-old boy get through grief or to deal with his anger that he had at his father. And he finally turned to alcohol himself. And he used to say that he had his first blackout when he was 16. He wrecked a car in a blackout when he was 17. And finally, when he was 19, he decided he would join the Marines. We're at the height of the Vietnam War, and he would joke he would joke later, telling this kind of a story, that he didn't realize that the enemy had bullets. Really, he used to say that. And it's a marvelous story, but it's too long to tell. But it was amazing how Baba kept him out of Vietnam. Thank you, Baba, because I'm sure he wouldn't have made it. So, Jamie, this is where you're going to sing the Gospel Plow. I only heard Jamie do this song last week at the benefit for the Asheville, and I went, that's a song for Phill. And then we're going to see a what I named the birth, baptism, and alcoholism slideshow. So this is all from Phil's family.
Edward. Mary, Mark, Luke, and John, all them prophets are dead and gone. Keep your hand on that plow. Hold on. I heard the voice of Jesus say, follow me, I am the way. Keep your hand on that plow. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your hand on that plow. Hold on. Mary wore 3 links of chain. Every link was Jesus' name. Keep your hand on that plow. Hold on. Paul and Silas bound in jail, had no one to go their bail. Keep your hand on that plow. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your hand on that plow. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your hand on that plow. Hold on. When I get to heaven, gonna sing and shout. Ain't no one there gonna put me out. Keep your hand on that plow. Hold on. Talk about me just as much as you may please. Before you talk, I'm gonna bend my knees. Keep your hand on that plow. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your hand on that plow. Hold on. Hold on, hold on, keep your hand on that plow. Hold on.
Said when you give your life to Christ, he says, all right, I'll take from you what you no longer need. And we all know that's a rough ride. So I have some other poems that Phill wrote that to me demonstrates the pain and struggle that he was living through being an alcoholic and not knowing how to find help. And so this is called A Plea by Deborah Smith. Spirit of all things that be. I think somebody else has to read this. Would you? Great. Thank you.
Spirit of all things that be, come forth to me now. Reveal the purpose to me. Teach me to know how. Spirit, remove this shroud of fear. Lead me to the hill, and remove me from here to serve your will. Use me, hallowed Spirit, for the purpose of your goal. Take me to the height of it. Never allow me to grow cold. Spirit, have thou will. My soul to you I bequeath. Lead me up the hill and give me sweet relief. Jai Baba.
Thank you, Judy.
Sure.
So while in the Marines, Phill went on a blind date, and that woman took him home to meet her family. They knew it wasn't like going to go anywhere with them, but she said, you know, you would really enjoy my family. And that's Rick Califf's family, and his parents' picture is on the memorial table. And basically in 1970, Phill saw Baba's painting, a Linot painting, in their house. And Rick told me that when Phill asked him, you know, like, who's this painting of? Rick first said, you probably don't want to know. And Rick has laid out on the table the Rolling Stone story that, you know, Baba was on the cover of Rolling Stone, and Rick gave that to Phill to look at, and then slowly fed him discourses and things like that. And it's funny, Phill never really wanted to tell his Baba story because he felt, you know, there was no white light experiences, and, you know, it wasn't impressive. That's how he felt. It's not an impressive story. And I just kind of think, you know, he gave his life to Christ when he was a little kid, and Baba just slowly brought him around to being reconnected to that love of Christ, because when his mother was killed, he said he was so angry at God, he just kind of closed the door on God. And so, you know, Baba had to do a lot of work in there. And fortunately, also, Phill found AA. And we can all thank the judge. When his third DUI came up, the judge was a woman who was in Al-Anon, and she recognized a drunk when she saw one and said, well, Mr. Smith, I'll give you a choice. You can sit your dumb ass in jail for a year, or you can go to AA. And he said it wasn't just because of his fear of jail that he picked AA, because he really didn't want to stop drinking. It, you know, it helped him with the pain. He said he was, you know, strong, bulletproof, he used to say. He said, when I drink, I'm bulletproof. So thank God for that. And then I got divorced, and I stayed away from Baba meetings for about a year. I really didn't want people talking about me and Gordon and all that kind of crap. But it was Amar Tithi, and I really missed Baba meetings. And so I went, and my plan was to sit right opposite the door, so that when the meeting was over, I could beeline it out, and I wouldn't have to talk to anybody and deal with that. So the meeting was over, I stood up, and I headed straight for the door, and there's Phill. He's just leaning against the wall next to the door. And I honestly, I'm not even sure I remembered his name, but I immediately remembered, I like that guy. I feel comfortable with that guy. And he, of course, just began to talk to me, and we decided that he could call me and ask me to go to the movies. Okay. Just went on from there. 6 years on from there. That's when the 6 years started. Unbelievable. And this is another poem from Phill. No more shallow relationships can we withstand. Once he's touched us with his loving hand, the depths of our soul we are to reveal. The years of hurt and pain we are to peel. To discover ourselves anew, to discover a depth that's loving and true. We've made a courageous start on a journey that will lead us to our hearts. Okay, we may need some more jokes at this point. Okay, Knight, step right up.
This is a story Katie Irani came up with, Nancy found it. Deep in the backwoods of Letcher County, Kentucky, a hillbilly's wife went into labor in the middle of the night, and the doctor was called out to assist in the delivery. Since there was no electricity, the doctor handed the father-to-be a lantern and said, "Here, you hold this high so I can see what I'm doing." Soon a baby boy was brought into the world. "Whoa there," said the doctor. "Don't be in such a rush to put that lantern down. I think there's another one coming." Sure enough, within minutes he had delivered a baby girl. hold that lantern up, don't set it down. There's another one, said the doctor. Within a few minutes, he had delivered a third baby. No, don't be in a hurry to put that down. It seemed there's yet another one coming, cried the doctor. The redneck scratched his head in bewilderment and asked the doctor, "Y'all reckon it might be the light that's attracted him?"
Okay, come on up.
Okay, St. Peter's at the gate. And he's got his book, and he's looking, and there's two lines. One line is like stretching on like, infinity. And the other line, looking, there's one guy standing there. And he looks at the book and he says, "Come on over here."
Use the mic.
Yeah, come on over here. I said, "Are you sure you're in the right line?" So, I don't know. Well, the line has a label on it. One says hand-pecked, and the other one was not hand-pecked. And he said, "Are you sure you're in the right line?" "Well, I don't know. He's in the not hand-pecked line." I said, "My wife told me to stand here."
What? Oh, yeah. This is jokes. This is not sharing time. Okay. And any more jokes?
Yeah, there was a guy sitting and watching TV, and there's a knock on the door. So he goes over, he's drinking beer, and he walks over, he opens the door, there's no one there. He looks down, there's a snail just on his welcome mat. So he picks up the snail and he heaves it as far as he can across the road over into the field across the street. Goes back, closes the door, and watches TV, keeps drinking beer. 2 weeks later, another knock on the door. Opens the door, and there's the snail. He says, "What the hell was that all about?"
What the hell was that all about?
Oh, can I just say this? Because of what Brad said. The war of the sexes will never be won because there's too much fraternization with the enemy. There you go. Yes?
Yeah, I'll tell one.
Okay.
You're right.
Yeah.
I was thinking of what could I
Wait,
tell?
get on the mic.
Oh, yeah. As you know, I like to tell jokes.
Yeah.
Not only like to tell jokes, someone gave me a joke book, and I got a lot of jokes from those, and I keep my jokes now on 3x5 cards, so I'm thinking one about me, husband and a wife. I didn't have any card with that one on it. And then I thought, wait a minute, I lived with a guy that I could tell about him. My husband, Charles John Patrick O'Leary, was quite a character, known throughout Maine. We had 46 years together, and he was dying of lung cancer. He'd been very, very ill. I was taking care of him at home, and he said, "Our anniversary's coming up. I'm not going to be here." So he said, "Oh, this is awful. I won't be here for our anniversary. I've been here for all the others, but I won't make it on this one." So he said, he says, "We've had such a wonderful time." And he said, so he started naming things. And the wonderful times he started naming was coming here to Myrtle Beach, which we started doing together winters once we got the second family grown up and my mother in a nursing home. So he said, we had such wonderful times. And then we went to Puerto Rico, and that was wonderful. And then we had all those trips on the Maine coast. We both loved being on the ocean.
And I'm crying and he's crying, and I'm feeling worse and worse. And it's just such a sad moment. He said, you know, it's been a really good 6 years. He says, too bad the first 40 were so shitty.
That's a true story.
Okay. Very good. So, you saw those pictures of 14 brothers and sisters that Phil's father had, and he had 5 brothers and sisters, and they had lots of children, and one of them was a Baptist minister, and he has since given up the Baptist church, and now he works for Habitat for Humanity. But he was always the person to eat. I'm looking at the food they're putting out. I'm looking at the time, 4:32. He was the person that he was the person who wrote a eulogy for everybody. He led the funerals and all that kind of stuff. And he always wrote each of the aunts and uncles who died, he would write them a letter, but he wrote them after they died. And he decided he didn't want to do that with Phill. He wanted to write a letter that Phill could read while he was alive. So it was September 16th. Phill died on the 28th of September. And they called him Sack. I think it's after that cartoon character or something, and I'm Sackette. So, dear Sack, I was saddened to receive the message that you're entering hospice. When we saw you in early August, I was hopeful that the treatment you were receiving in Clayton would be helpful. While I wrote letters for Aunt Angie, Daddy, Aunt Vanna, Uncle James, I wanted you also to have a letter from me. None of your siblings ever got to read what I wrote about them. I hope these words bring you warm feelings. Just 1 second. So I'm going to change the order of things. It's a beautiful letter, but we don't need to read it. Instead, don't worry, there's other good stuff. Instead, I actually want to tell you about Phil's death, because it was really amazing. And I'm just in virtue of time, I'm paying attention to time here. Phill was in AA, as you know, and he had very dear friends in AA, and one of them was a pastor up in Minnesota, and they used to have a lot of Christian conversations together. And maybe a week, 2 weeks before Phill died, he sent him this. And it's regarding a flying trapeze circus troupe. One day, a man was sitting with the leader of the troupe in his caravan talking about flying. He says, as a flyer, I must have complete trust in my catcher. The public might think that I'm the great star of the trapeze, but the real star is my catcher. He has to be there for me with split-second precision and grab me out of the air as I come to him in the long jump. Well, how does it work? His companion asked. The secret is that the flyer does nothing, and the catcher does everything. When I fly to my catcher, I have simply to stretch out my arms and hands and wait for him to catch me and pull me safely over the apron behind the catch bar. You do nothing? His companion asked. Nothing. The worst thing a flyer can do is to try and catch the catcher. I'm not supposed to catch the catcher. It's his task to catch me. If I grabbed his wrists, I might break them. Or he might break mine, and that would be the end for both of us. A flyer must fly, and a catcher must catch. And the flyer must trust with outstretched arms that his catcher will be there for him. When he said this with so much conviction, the words of Jesus flashed through his companion's mind. Father, into your hands I command my spirit. Dying is trusting in the catcher. To care for the dying is to say, don't be afraid. Remember that you are the beloved child of God. He will be there when you make your long jump. Don't try to grab him. He will grab you. Just stretch out your arms and hands and trust. Trust, trust. So I just want to say, you can see where I want to stop. So this is not a musical accompaniment. Oops. Nope. We're not doing that one. The next one, departure? Yeah. I have way more material than I needed. So we're going to skip that one. There we go. Okay. So this is how Phill wanted to die, in India, being cremated. That was both of our hopes, that that's how we would be able to go. However, I don't know so far, but he did not get that. So just a few months before Phill passed, he went to meet Saija, which is Saroja's daughter. Phill is Saroja's godfather. And if you hang around long enough, Pamela's going to share about how Phill and I became Saroja's godparents. But for right now, he was, you could see how many pictures I had of Phill with children. Phill loved children. And if we probably hadn't met younger in our lives, we probably maybe would have had children. Who knows? Why go there? Anyway, so eventually Phill became incapacitated enough that he couldn't walk and drag his tank anymore, so he was in a wheelchair. And that was, of course, hard to watch, but these things happen. And his friends sent him that trapeze message, and he read it, and then he asked me to read it, and then we read it again once out loud. And this is really slow. Okay. Okay. So go back one if you can. That's kind of a hard picture to keep looking at. So I want to tell you what happened. So Phill was in hospice. We had a hospice bed, and he was here for I don't know 13 days or something, and he got to the point where he really couldn't get out of bed anymore because he was so unstable. The last time I got him out of bed, I almost dropped him, and so I couldn't let him get out of bed anymore. And that he died at 7:40 in the morning, and the night before, I took his phone and I read this trapeze thing again. He was sleeping, and I just read it again. And he began getting very agitated towards morning, and he was demanding that I get him out, you know, of the bed. And I kept saying, honey, I can't get you out of bed because I can't keep you upright, you'll get hurt. And he was grabbing the rails of the bed and going, get me out of here, like that. I mean, he was really strident about it. I kept telling him I couldn't do that, and I would rub his back. I would do anything to try and make him feel better. And then it became so intense, his saying that this popped into my mind, the trapeze thing, and this thought came into my mind, and I just said out loud, you don't want to get out of this bed. You want to get out of this body. And I said, go ahead. It's okay. Bob is here. He's right inside of you. Remember, all you have to do is let go and he will catch you. And he literally threw his arms up in the air, and there were lots of Baba pictures opposite his bed, and his eyes were like saucers. And then they dropped, and he was gone. Yeah. Jai Baba. And I want to show you something. Right after he died, I went out in the garden and picked flowers. I turned off his oxygen machine. It was just like I was turning everything down. I picked flowers. And I want you to notice where his hands are. They're just laying by his side. And see, he was looking at all those Baba pictures when he threw his hands up in the air. And I want you to see. Now, his hand is holding the flowers. Now, this is the wild part. After a while, time went by, I called the hospice people, because we were just alone when he died, and they came. And she very nicely said, do we need to clean Phill up in any way? And I went, I don't think so. I mean, he's laying on a diaper, and it'd be nice to cover him up, you know? She says, okay, you know, we can do that. We'll have to roll him back and forth. And as we were rolling him back and forth, I thought, oh, those flowers are gonna fall and they're gonna get crushed, you know, but it was like, you know, you're in the middle of moving somebody. And when we rolled him flat, the flowers were in his hand. And I looked at the hospice lady and I said, did you put those flowers in his hand? And she said, no. Well, I knew I hadn't. And there they are, in his hand. And it's so like Phill to be attentive and responsive to that kind of thing that was important to me. And it just blew my mind. And then I was kind of ready to let him go, you know? They asked me if he wanted to be, oh, we know your husband was in the military, do you want a flag? And my first thought was like, I don't think so. And then I realized, no, I think he actually would like that. So they wrapped him in a flag, and that's the modern day hearse. and there's our beloved Phill walking away, onward in his journey. And there's one more slide that I really, this is a Rumi poem. This place is a dream Only a sleeper considers it real. Then death comes like dawn, and you wake up laughing at what you thought was your grief. Jai Meher Baba. So we have a lot of lovely food and drinks and dessert. There's two people who would love to share, Pamela and Rick Califf, and they can do so while people get food. There's, like I said, it's not messy food. You can sit in your chair, in your lap, or whatever. I'm really grateful that you all came, and that I'm just kind of without words at this point. Thank you.
You and Phill did all right.
Me and Phill did all right. Okay, yeah. And people can tell jokes. Yeah. I have another one that I love. Ready for a joke? Yeah. Ready. Get food if you want, do whatever you want. So, yeah, please get food. There were two sisters, one blonde, one brunette. Inherited the family ranch, and unfortunately, after a few years, they're in financial trouble. To keep the bank from repossessing the ranch, they decided they would purchase a bull from the stockyard in a far town, and they could breed their own stock. They only had $600. Upon leaving, the brunette tells her sister, the blonde, "When I get there, if I decide to buy the bull, I'll contact you to drive out after me and haul it home." The brunette arrives, inspects the bull, decides she wants it. The man says, "Well, it's $5.99, no less." She pays him, drives to the telegraph office, says she wants to send a telegram to tell her sister she bought the bull and I need her to hitch the trailer to come to the truck and drive out so we can haul it home. And the telegraph operator says, "Sorry, ma'am, but it's 99 cents a word." And she stands there for a bit and she says, "Oh, I know what to do. I want you to send her one word, comfortable." The operator shakes his head. "How is she ever going to know? You want her to come out with the trailer and hitch to your pickup truck and drive here and haul that bull back to the ranch if you send her the word comfortable." "Well," she says, "my sister's a blonde. It's a big word. She'll read it very slowly. Come for da bull." Good one. I like it. Okay. It's open mic for jokes.
I went to the doctor. The doctor gave me 6 months to live. I said, "Doctor, I can't pay my bill," so he gave me another 6 months to live.
That's right. I have that joke in there too.
I said, "Doctor, I want a second opinion." He said, "All right, you're ugly too."
Deborah, you must have enjoyed the time you spent with us.